So what I'm going to show you is how to be a pirate with a Mantis, how to interdict players, how to keep them interdicted or keep them from jumping away, how to have an outcome where you either disable them, convince them to pay you a ransom, or soft death them, hard death them. If they disconnect, their ship does stay now, so that's nice. But this is the Mantis. You've probably seen it before. It's not the best looking ship, but it is currently the only ship in the game that lets you pull people out of Quantum. The Cutlass Blue can keep them from jumping into Quantum, but it can't interrupt or snare ships out of Quantum. This is the only ship that'll do it. So I think it's about 1.2 million. You can buy it on Loreville, on Hurston. But the inside actually isn't too bad. The outside's pretty ugly. The ship blows up if you breathe on it, but the inside's kind of cool looking. And I'll start it up so you can see it with the lighting. All right. This is the interior. This side does nothing interactable. This, when the quantum interdiction device is running, that's spinning and kind of glowing a little bit. It's pretty sweet. That's an elevator that just goes down, and then a bed for bed logging, which is really handy because once you get into position, you can bed log and then jump to a different server and wait at the new server for 15-20 minutes, however long you want to give it before you jump to a new one. One of the things you will encounter, at least until they fix it, is getting stuck to a pad, and this happens in the Mantis more than any other ship I've ever flown. And this isn't just at All-Star, this is pretty much any station. You can try going up, forward, side, back. Here's full burn forward. Nothing. I am just stuck to the pad. Yeah, I mean, I'm really trying to get out. I've been completely reckless trying to get, sometimes you can really just thrust and find a way to get out, but there's just no way. You can see the hind legs there just really trying to leave, and it just doesn't work. I even raised the landing gear, which you would think would totally work. Oh yeah, there we go. Landing pad up, and go. And go. I'm full speed ahead, not moving. And go some more. Go. Come on, little nacelles. Give her. Yeah. It's just not doable. Calling it. One thing when you get out to find a new pad, make sure you power your engine off, or your ship will just start going crazy. So I just discovered something pretty crazy about the Mantis. If you come on this vent and do in chat /sit, so you're going to make your character sit down, you will plop through the floor, which might be nice if you're looking for a quick exit. When you disable a ship or you're looking for into like a PvP confrontation situation, you might want to quick exit your ship instead of coming down a ramp slowly and not tactfully. But actually, I wonder if I could do that anywhere. Let's try like right here. Yep. So it looks like anywhere you sit, or at least on those two spots in the Mantis, you can quick exit the ship. In order to set this up, we want to capture players coming from Microtech with gold or barrel and coming to Crusader to sell. They'll typically be going to Loreville to sell. So what I use is this tool called snareplan.dolus.eu. I'll put the link in the description. But you start by putting your origin, so I'm going to put Microtech. And then destination location, I'll put Crusader. And I'll click show results. And this tells you that you want to start at Crusader and you're going to fly to Microtech. Or I'm sorry, the other way around. Start at Microtech, fly to Crusader, and when you're about 499,000 kilometers from Crusader, all the way down to 14,900 kilometers, so anywhere in this range, you will be in a good position to capture the traffic. So on the map over here, it shows Microtech up here. This is Crusader down here. You're probably going to be around this area, and what's going to happen is anywhere that players come from the left side of Microtech, the right side, the top, the bottom, any location on Microtech that they might be coming from, even OM markers, their point of destination is going to always be the one point, the center of Crusader. So if you think of it like a giant triangle, like a funnel, it's one point on Crusader, and it's a lot of area. It's the entire width of the planet plus OM markers, so it's a little bit wider than this planet. And it comes all the way down to right around here is your best spot to block them. And once we get to Microtech, I'm going to turn around and fly back to Crusader, and when I get to less than 500,000 kilometers, I'm going to drop out by pressing and holding Bravo B, and I'll check my location with this tool. Okay, I'm arriving at Microtech from Crusader, and I'm just going to turn right back around and head back to Crusader. By default, the quantum drive that comes in the Mantis doesn't have enough fuel to make this round trip, but if you upgrade it to the Atlas, then you'll have enough. Okay, we're at Microtech. Let's go back to Crusader. Turn around. And now I've got a long ride ahead of me, 53 million kilometers, because as we learned from the tool, we want to be less than 500,000 kilometers when we drop out on the way to Crusader. Alright, we're getting close, so I'm going to wait until we're just under 500,000 and then hold B and cancel my quantum. You don't want to miss this because you have to do it all over again. There we go. Seems like a pretty good location. I'm just going to turn off my quantum drive, and if I go into chat and I type /show location, all one word, all lowercase, hit enter, what it's going to do is copy the coordinates of my ship to the clipboard, and then I can go into this quantum tool, and right down here where it says position verification, I can paste it and hit focus. And what this does is it shows me all of the possible paths that players can take and how much coverage I have. And if you can see here, I've got 20 kilometers radius in all directions, and that is the width of the possible paths that players can be taking when they quantum travel from Microtech to Crusader. So I've got really good coverage. There's just a tiny gap right here. As you can see, it's not rule center, but it's super close. If I want to get even better, or let's say this was, half of it was off of this path, what I would do is just zoom out and take a look at, look for something that's landmark that I could fly towards. So Arc L3. So in the game, I'm just going to go to Arc L3, set a route. It's right there, and I'm just going to fly toward it for, I don't know, 3 seconds. We're not very far off, and I'll hit show location again, and then clear this, paste, focus. Yeah, you can see now it's almost perfect. It says I can go down half of a kilometer to get really perfect, and to do that, I wouldn't adjust for that small of an amount, but let's say I'm just going to set the route to Microtech, look at it, make sure the sun is to the right, because that's the plane that we're operating on. I don't want to look at Microtech like this. I know that the sun should be on the right, so I'm operating with the same plane as the top-down view of that map, and it says I need to go Oh, I'm down half of a kilometer. So let's just go up for, I don't know, 4 seconds or so. That's pretty good. Show location. Focus. Alright. 0.2 kilometers too high. Now I know that anyone coming from Microtech to Crusader, there's a really good chance I'm going to catch them. And this isn't just some ships or one ship or the next ship. This is all ships. So you could be pulling a Hammerhead, you could be pulling a 600i, an Aurora. I mean, anything that's coming from Microtech to Crusader. And in order to do this, we are going to turn on our quantum interdiction, our snare device. And if you hold F and look down here, it says QD on. We're going to click that button. And on the outside, you'll see your ship actually open up, and there's the device. And then to start the charging, we're going to go back inside and see in the upper right-hand corner, the QED device, we're going to right-click, and that's going to start charging it. And it takes a few seconds to charge. You'll see it's 45, 50, 60, so it's getting ready to pop. Once we get to 100, I can right-click one more time, and that's going to activate the device. So now if you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, I've got a quantum dampening image. That means if I turn on my quantum right now, and I want to go to Microtech, well, I can't go to Microtech because I don't have enough fuel. But let's set to Crusader. So we're going to flip around here. And I want to quantum. It's going to tell me my QT system is jammed. And that's how it's going to look for any players that I pull out of quantum. And there isn't any kind of a warning or an alert, nothing audible to tell me that I pulled someone out of quantum. It's just going to be a little carrot I'm going to notice on the outside edge, a new contact basically. So those white carrots, we all know those things are just buggy locations. If you're in a party, you're going to see a lot more of those, and it's super annoying. There's one that just appeared. Is that a new one? I hesitate to fly toward it. Yeah, I don't see a ship. I'll wait until I see a ship before I leave my position. But just so you know, the amount of power that you're using to run this quantum interdiction is a ton. So you are very visible to other players from very far away, and if your ship gets shot at, it just blows up. This is not a very strong ship at all. That's why you want to have some kind of backup. As long as you keep yourself within range, I think it's 10,000 or 10 kilometers, it might be 20. I know the quantum interdiction is 20 kilometer radius. The quantum dampening to keep them from jumping into quantum, I know it's at least 10, it might be 20. And that'll keep them from jumping away. And as long as you stay within that range, they're not going to be able to get away. So that's why sometimes you don't want to be the only ship doing this, because you're going to be one-on-one against who knows what. If it's a C2, okay, you'll probably be alright because you can stay behind it. If it's a Caterpillar, they're a little tougher to fight, but still you could probably stay under him or behind the guns. But you're going to have a heck of a time getting through those shields without some help. Sometimes I'll have other players in a squad, but they'll be doing other things nearby. Maybe in Crusader they'll be doing bounties or combat beacons. And then when I snare someone, once I catch them, I'll put out give them the heads up, and then everyone will just jump to my location and engage in the fight. One thing that's important to remember is most cargo ships that you interdict are going to be going max speed, which for the C2, for example, that's 963. So if one of your friends has a Corsair running 950, they're not going to be much of a help. They're not going to be able to keep up with it. So you're going to want ships to help you that can travel at least 980, 1,000 meters per second to stay in the fight. But I will stay here. This is a pretty populated server. I have no friends on this server, but I'll stay on here and see if I can catch someone, so you can see what it looks like when they pop up. One thing to remember also, once I'm in this location, I can bedlog and I can hop to a different server, and I'm still in this exact same location. If I do get out of my seat, it does cancel the quantum interdiction device though. And sometimes if you're ever not sure if the quantum is working, for example, that icon sometimes doesn't show up in the upper right hand corner, just try doing it, try jumping yourself. And if you can't, it'll say QT system jammed, you know you're still good. Sometimes people will jump to me and tell me I don't have a red bubble around my ship right now, or you know my quantum device isn't even open, and it is, and there is. So you know there's a little desync going on, just like anything. Couple of notes while I'm sitting here waiting forever. It's been 10 minutes. Sometimes it's 10 minutes. Sometimes it's longer. But that's one of the reasons you want to be in a group. It can be pretty boring waiting for someone to get interdicted. So if you have friends here, you can talk to them. Another thing, that sun is crazy bright. So if you can align your strut just right to block it, if you want to be looking this way. But typically, if you interdict someone, you know they're going to be heading toward Crusader. So I have that set as my destination, just so I have that red marker on the side of my screen and I know the direction they're probably going to run. These white chevrons can be really distracting. They look like they could be ships, but they're not. So what you want to do, or what I do anyway, is just line them up. So maybe my crosshair is between two of them and there's one up top, so I can have a mental picture of where these are. So if I see another one appear along the edge, I can rotate my ship and investigate. It might be a ship that I just interdicted. Two other things, your top speed, your limiter, is going to be right about here by default. So you're going to want to make sure that's all the way up, so when you start chasing someone, you don't fall behind real quick. Another thing, this ship doesn't thrust very long, so manage your thrust. When you do interdict a target, they're going to have their adrenaline pumping, your adrenaline's pumping, so you're going to want to just hold shift the entire time, you know, to try to catch them. And don't do that, because if they show up in front of you and you go full thrust toward them, and then they zip past you and you have to turn around and come to a stop and then start going the other direction full speed, you're not going to have any thrust to do that. So I would recommend not using thrust unless you need it. Just go full speed, but don't use shift unless you know that you're going to be falling out of range of them. Most ships you're not going to have any problem catching. The only ship that's a bit of a challenge sometimes is the like the Mercury Star Runner. It's a really fast ship, a really fast cargo ship, so it's something you do want to pursue and interdict and disable, but you're going to have a hard time catching it. And if you're alone, you're going to have a hard time fighting it, because you both have Panthers, dual Panthers. The pilot has gimbaled dual Panthers. You have non-gimbaled dual Panthers. The MSR has a lot of hull and a lot of shield, and you have pretty much none. So that's definitely a situation you're going to want some backup. What happens though is a lot of times is the pilot of the other ship won't be thinking sensibly, so they won't be turning to fight. A lot of times they just go into, you know, it's either fight or flight. They're going to either run away and try to do evasive maneuvers to keep you off their tail. They don't know if you have more ships coming, or they're going to turn and try to fight you. If they do turn and fight and you have a few ships with you, they'll almost always go for the Mantis first, because you're the ship that's keeping them from getting away. So you're going to want to keep distance between them, keep behind them, keep above them, keep anywhere except in front of them, where you're going to get just melted. There's a couple of outcomes when you successfully disable an enemy ship. One is your friend told them to come to a complete stop, so you can discuss ransom, you get payment, you let them go. That's actually the most favorable resolution, in my opinion. It just almost never happens. I would say 10% of the time you're going to end up with a compliant pilot who's even coherent enough to, you know, or even paying attention to what his messages are, that he's getting hailed or any of that. Most of them just go into this, oh my gosh, I've got so much investment, I've got to survive this somehow or fight these guys, or, you know, they're not really thinking clearly. The other two, well, the other three outcomes, I guess, would be if they self-destruct, which if they do, that's fine. In a C2, that's 696 cargo, SC of cargo. We typically get a cluster of cargo where they initially self-destructed, and then they'll coast to a stop, and there'll be a bunch of cargo inside their ship. Altogether, we usually recover around 100 SCU, which is easy to scoop up, and you don't make a killing on it, but, you know, that was their choice to self-destruct. The other two outcomes would be if you soft death them. If you do, they've got the full load, and you've got 696 up to 696 cargo in a C2, and it is incredibly painful to move. So even though it sounds like that would be the best outcome, it's not. It took 5 of us 2 hours to move, and every one of us were complaining. Every one of us were having a bad time. There's no transfer all for ships, and there's no way to repair their ship to bring it to cargo, to bring it somewhere to sell. So that's not my favorite. Also, the hard death is similar to self-destruct. In fact, sometimes we don't even know which happened, if it was a hard death or a self-destruct. But same thing, you should get about 100 crates, and that's manageable. Someone could show up in an MSR, Mercury Star Runner, or maybe one of your guys has a ship like a Constellation that can scoop up most of it. But that's probably, my favorite ways are they stop and pay the ransom, they hard death, they self-destruct, or I guess soft death is the only thing that's really fun about soft death is that they're inside and they're alive and they might be armed, so you get a little PvP action. At this point, they wouldn't accept any kind of negotiating, any kind of bargaining, any kind of ransom request, because their ship is completely disabled. Their only option at that point, even if they paid you and you let them go, they would have to have a friend bookmark that location or wait at that location. They would have to go get a new cargo ship, claim a new C2, fly it back, and then manually move 696 SU of cargo. There's no way anyone's going to do that. So it's going to end up being a PvP situation. So just an update, I waited for 20 minutes on one server and nada. I jumped to another server, waited another 20 minutes. A friend of mine joined me with a Talon, and we did finally catch an MSR. I wanted to show you the way it shows up on your screen so you can see what it looks like, but it really just looks like a new contact. Just like anytime you see a ship, it's got that just little blue chevron. There's no sound, there's no audio. You snared someone, you caught a ship, the quantum interdiction successful. It's none of that. It's just there's a contact, and it's really hard because you can't alt tab, you can't be doing something else, because if you're not watching for contacts, you're just going to miss it. In fact, I was on an external view of my ship, and my buddy that was with me said, "Oh, we got a new contact," and I was like, "Whoa, that's okay. Yeah, it's got to be something." And sure enough, it was an MSR. He ran. We didn't have a third guy to talk negotiations with him. We did try hailing him, but he didn't answer. We scanned his ship. He had nothing on board, so we did end up taking him out. It was a soft death. But what happened is the ship was, I believe it was blue, and then it just turned white. And what happened, I connected with that pilot later and we discussed it, but what happened is he actually just signed off. And when you do that during combat, your ship stays with everything in it. So he signed off. He's going to wake up in a station, probably with all of his armor, but everything that was in his ship, like in his ship storage, the inventory, like when you press I, shows up in an external container floating in space. And we did loot that. We got a couple sets of armor, some guns, and my favorite part was we got a Pacifica hat. I don't know what he was doing with that, but I thanked him for the hat, after we discussed it, and he said, enjoy the hat.